Welcome to Youth Sector Orientation and Networking for the External Crew. This subject is a very, very different subject from what you've experienced from other ones that you would have worked with here at Tabor. A lot of others will be based in theory and going through textbooks and comparing different practice approaches. This is very different. What we're looking for in this subject is exposure to the youth sector. Youth sector orientation and networking. So we want to orientate ourselves to the youth sector and we want to understand what it means to be able to network with that sector. So how to move through that sector, how to engage young people in a variety of different capacities and to be able to support complex at-risk young people and to move to a place where we might not have known many youth services around. We might be very limited in the support that we can offer young people. But what we actually want to do is be able to get to a place where any young person sitting down with us can present any situation that they might be requiring support in, and we can offer that support. Now, it's not as complex and it's not as daunting as you may believe. It's a very strategic process of knowing what support services are out there and how can I link young people with various different support networks to receive the best outcome. So what we're going to look at right now is totally just your subject outline. So we're going to look at what are what's the purpose of this subject, and then what are the assignments, look at due dates and all that kind of information. So if you can just open up the subject outline for the external subject outline, and then we'll walk through that. I'll walk through that together. Okay, the summary and purpose. The subject will give students an orientation to the South Australian youth sector. So for those people that are studying interstate or are studying maybe in a rural area, you need to translate that learning to your area. You may need to email me about how that's going to happen, but this subject is quite unique in that our experience is about engaging with the youth sector and it's not about textbooks. So where Tabor Adelaide is based in South Australia, so it's for South Australians. But if you're from Melbourne, you're from Sydney, you're from Perth, it's not a big deal. You just need to engage with youth services in your area. And I'll explain how that best happens. And provide a broad overview of its comprising elements. Students will be introduced to the practice of referral and collaborative work practices. Each student will also gain an understanding of potential career pathways within the youth sector. This subject is primarily orientated to an understanding of the field and to professional development. So it's about engaging the sector and engaging young people. You've got various objectives there. The objectives are always tied to the assignments that you're doing. So if you were to flip over the page and go to say work for assessment on page 3, it says assessing learning outcomes 2 and 5. And you'll see that they're all picked up somewhere in there. So we're assessing learning outcomes based on the learning objectives. On page 2, we've got a bunch of textbooks that you can access. But let's look at page 3. Page 3 would be helpful. This subject is birthed out of, the external component is birthed out of an internal intensive that we do. So that means it's 5 days of coming together. The first day is in lectures with me, and then days 2, 3, 4 and 5 is all out in the field. And so it's not coming to a lecture, it's not reading a textbook, it's going and meeting various different youth services that exist in your area, and for us exist in Adelaide. So you can get a picture of what various services do. So what services are there for young people that are experiencing issues of sexual health? What is out there for young people in areas of homelessness, community engagement, community development, education, alternative education? What services are out there? Now we had this, when I ran this workshop, this intensive, we would have visited maybe 15 different youth services over that week. And then so I toured our crew around, and for whatever reason, either you're unavailable to make that intensive or you live interstate, that's up to you about how best you want to do that. But when we work through the assignments, you'll see that how that manifests as a part of your work. So module 1, that's what's in available via Tableau Online. That's where you've got this video and you've got this ebook that you're working through. That's module 1. Module 2 is entirely based on writing and applying for work within the youth sector, and that ties into assignment 3. So module 1 is based on that first day that I would have run for everybody, where it's full of lectures, and then module 2 is you're applying for a job as an assignment. I just want to walk you through how best to do that. So let's look at the assignments. Assignment number 1, online forum discussion. Students are required to respond to regular online forums as set out in the Youth Sector Orientation Networking subject site. It is expected that students undertaking this subject will initiate in-person conversations with 10 to 12 various youth service providers in their closest major city. Online forums will appear at the beginning of week 3, 6, 9 and 12. Students are required to give their responses to the set task by midnight Friday of that week. Now what I expect for this subject is that because you couldn't come to the intensive, that you're going to spread out the intensive over the semester. So it might be that you'll make a couple of phone calls to different youth services, but primarily you're just going in, you're calling a youth service and saying, can I pop in? And so it might be that you go and visit one service a week. It might be that you visit 3 or 4 one day, 3 or 4 another day, 3 or 4 another day, and you get your 10 to 12 done that way. But the learning here is not spent reading textbooks. There is a couple of readings that you'll do along the way, but primarily it's actually about visiting youth services. And you'll be given forums to write in at the end of week 3, 6, 9 and 12 that speak to your experiences of visiting those services. And if you haven't visited services, you won't be able to speak to those. So it's really, really important that for your first assignment that you're progressively engaging different youth services in your area. And when you open up, there's another video where I talk about the youth sector and you'll get an understanding of how to best approach that. Assignment number 2, a brief referral procedures manual. Construct a dot point procedures manual comprising 4 sections. Sections 1 will outline guidelines for general referral practices as supported by relevant professional literature. And sections 2 to 4 will outline guidelines for specific referral considerations relating to 3 separate youth services from different general areas of the youth sector. The specific guidelines will be based on actual research of the procedures relevant to each service. Okay, so this assignment is due at the end of next week, due at the end of week 4 for whenever you've watched this video. And the procedure manual should be 4 to 6 pages in length and not more than 1,500 words. And then, so what I mean by that, section 1 will outline the guidelines for general referral practices as supported by relevant literature. I upload that, so you'll find that on Table Online. You read that, and then you write to that about what is the correct way to do a referral. Then sections 2, 3 and 4 is that in sections 1 you're looking at a youth service that provides referral, and then so you're speaking to that service and you're doing online research to find out how does that service do a referral. So a referral, simply put, is that when you're working with a client and you say you're working in a community service organisation and you meet a young person that has alternative education needs, you want to speak to a youth service that offers alternative education needs, you're then referring that client to that service. Now, it's a bit of an art form about how to do that. Do the readings, now make sense. You write from the literature in section 1. Section 2 is how does one youth service do it? We say Anglicare. Service 4 is Baptist Care, and Service 5 is Uniting Communities, for example, but it can be any 3 services that you like. That's that one assignment. I'm just going to stop the video now, open up a new one just for the sake of saving space on my computer.